everyone, this is Elisa. I'm back. We're talking about the respiratory system, and now we're going to go on to pulmonary ventilation. So, pulmonary ventilation is kind of nice and easy. It is just breathing. So it consists of a repetitive respiratory cycle, and it just means like it's inhaling and exhaling. And the respiratory cycle is just doing it like one time around. Like everybody, let's do this together, okay? Like yoga class. Like everybody, inhale and exhale. Expiration. All right, that's one complete respiratory cycle. Nice job. So there's two kinds. There's the kind where like, you're just not even thinking about it. You're just effortlessly breathing. You're sleeping, you're breathing. It's good. And then there's what we call forced respiration. And so this is what happens when your body has to step it up a notch because of condition change that require greater oxygen CO2 exchange. And so that would be, oh man, I just took a run. Whew, gotta breathe, gotta get all that oxygen resupplied. Whew, that kind of thing. Right. So as far as the respiratory muscles, your lungs don't have muscles, but you do have a diaphragm, just inferior to those lungs. So like if here's your diaphragm is actually right here. And so that's a skeletal muscle. And it's no, remember skeletal muscles from A&P1? Yep, it's a prime mover of respiration. So contraction flattens the diaphragm when it contracts, so it gets like it contracts it. You're like, oh, that is like not very. Just sorry, that just looks like a face. No, okay, so let's clear the pen markings. Try again. Okay, so the contraction is going to flatten the diaphragm, and what that means is it's going to make the thoracic cavity like larger. Okay, and it's going to pull air into the lungs, so it's going to make it like kind of tight. So it kind of does like a this, right? So the lungs can expand. Okay. And so when we relax, it's like it gets kind of like up like in here, right? And so that means the lungs are going to just kind of be forcing out or compressing um, to force upwards again, if that makes sense. So like think of relaxing, it's like kind of just bulging, right? It's getting a little thicker, and that kind of forces the lungs to like push out the air. Okay. And so that's like quite a bit of the airflow, like 2/3 of the airflow. Then there's some more stuff. So you might have noticed that you have intercostal muscles as well. So these intercostal muscles are going to move your ribs, right? Your rib cage. And these are known as synergists, right? So they're not the prime movers, but they're, in there and they're helping out and they're doing stuff. So they're located in between ribs. And so they're doing things like adding either flexibility or rigidity to the rib cage during respiration, right? And so that can allow the lungs to also move a little bit. It prevents it from caving inwards when the diaphragm descends, so just stabilizing, right? And they also contribute to the enlargement and contraction of the thoracic cage itself, so just adding more space, right? Just adding more space or taking it about. So that's around the last third. Um, and then there still are a few more. So like the scalene muscles as well. So these are going to be synergists working with ribs 1 and 2. So they're up here at the very top, right? So they're going to be up here in most superior for the scalenes. Okay. Accessory muscles of respiration, erector spinae, sternocleidomastoid, pectoralis major, pectoralis minor, serratus anterior muscles, and the scalenes, which we just talked about. Scalenes. And so what they do basically is they're just working to change how much volume we have in the rib cage, right? Like just kind of allow it to either relax out, right? So we can have more space or like kind of stay stable. Okay. So that's basically what those are working towards. Okay. Normal quiet expiration. So these are energy saving passive processes. So what this is doing is it's working with the elasticity of the lungs and the thoracic cage. And so basically, as these muscles start to kind of like bring it down and relax a little bit, the structures are going to go back to their original shape, which is like not super large. And so this is kind of what is resulting for air out of the lungs, right? So because going to a smaller. Um, But forced expiration is a little bit different because it requires like some like muscles to become engaged essentially, right? So things like rectus abdominis, right? Flex your belly muscles, right? Your abdominal muscles, and kind of feel that forced expiration go right out. Internal is intercostals, some of the lumbar, abdominal, as well as even your pelvic muscles. So what they are doing is since they're increasing the abdominal pressure, it's going to push your organs up, right, into the cavity. And that's kind of what happens there. And that's how it like pushes it out. So when you're breathing with your belly, like if you're in yoga and you're doing breath of fire, or some folks in, um, what is it, opera, I believe it is, they also practice this abdominal like level of breathing, right? It's just another level of control. Okay. Valsava maneuver is interesting because it's a breathing technique that is used to expel the contents of certain abdominal organs. And so, what it does is whenever you can depress your diaphragm, it's going to raise your abdominal pressure. And so, how this is done is you take a big deep breath and you're going to hold it by closing the glottis, right? And then you're going to contract your abdominal muscles. And so these are going to be useful when you have to kind of do um, these very forceful acts upon your viscera, things that are pretty difficult, like childbirth, sometimes really pushing at the end of urination, defecation as well, constipation, right, leading to that. And then like vomiting also. Okay. Here's a diagram just kind of showing some of those respiratory muscles. This one in here, here's that diaphragm. See how it's kind of curved in, right? You can see how that operates. When it relaxes, obviously it's going to kind of extend upwards, and then contraction, maybe it's going to sting down. Intercostals, swinging between the ribs as well. Pectoralis coming in here under the pectorals, right? Pectoral muscles. And so those are going to be able to lift those ribs when they are contracting, and then we're allowing them to relax, right? So pushing down the volume of the overall lung capacity. Sternocleidomastoid, which actually is, attaches in here in the head, back of the head. And so this is going to be lifting and attaching it, manubrium as well as clavicle. Scalene muscles are up here, so this is moving on the first and the second ribs. So they can see this is kind of allowing extension and contraction in the superior portion of the thoracic cavity, right? So there are also intercostal muscles on the internal component. So as you can see, here's internal intercostals as well. Rectus abdominis, right here. So also attached to and pulling on the rib cage. Right, oblique muscles as well, attaching in at the inferior components or the inferior costals or ribs themselves. So these are like all these different ways that these muscles can interact and help force expiration or allow you to even take a deeper breath. Right, but really, the prime mover, remember, 2/3 of it's really all about that diaphragm right there. Okay. I think that's pretty good for now. So, all right. So I hope that was super helpful, and I hope you're out there having a great day. Goodbye.